To the room. We'll get started. Hello to everyone who is joining us. Welcome to the show. This thing on? 1, 2. Yeah, it's on. 5, 6, 7, 8. I want to start with this picture. While everyone's gathering, let me just put up on your screen. Hang on. Hey, Pauline, Lewis, Charles, I see all of you. Welcome. Go ahead and share. Click the share button. Let's get the party going. While everybody comes. Oh, this should be connected. Why is it not connected? Hello, Rochelle. I see you, Rochelle. Good evening, Angry Panda. Good to see you. Jerry. Whoa. Don't freeze up on me. Don't freeze up on me, computer. Are we still going? All right, we froze up. Oregon is in the house. Glenda, we see you. San Francisco, Kathy is in the house. Good to see you, Kathy. The fly's not real. The fly's not real? You mean to tell me? Oh, I hate when the internet lies. You mean to tell me the fly isn't real? It's Photoshop? Tupelo, Mississippi's in the house. Hi, Elle. Good to see you, Cheryl. I'm just vexed. I'm just really vexed. Hey, Pamela, I see you, sis. I am really vexed if this fly is not real. I was ready to go in on the fly. Like, God is trying to tell you something, America. All right, whatever. Oh, well, there you go. That's my desktop. I don't care about Nancy Pelosi right now. I wanted you to see the black hole on my desktop. But anyway, let me take that down before something crazy pop up. Welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome to the stream. Glad to have everybody here. I thought the fly was real because, well, we're living in like biblical times, right? We've had so many hurricanes that we are in. We're past Hurricane Delta. They went through all the regular names now. They're on the Greek alphabet: Alpha, Beta, Gamma, Delta, right? We're having fire, brimstone. We're having wars and rumors of wars. So it just wouldn't make sense that the fly would be real. But somebody said in the chat room that the fly isn't real. So guess I won't be talking about that tonight. But I do have a lot of media and a lot of other stuff for us to cover, to go over. So click the like button, wherever platform you're watching on. Click the share button. I'm not above getting got. They got me. Hey, Andrea. Hey, CA70. Charles, I appreciate that. Charles says, it was funny, though. It was. I shared it everywhere. Damn, internet. Thanks a lot, internet. All right, let's get this party started. Let's jump right in. I'm going to pull up on the screen something. Oh, before I do that, I want to show a piece of fan art. But you know what? I want to make sure before I do that, I want to put their name in it to give them credit. So, David, I'm jumping over into the Slack real quick. If you could send me directly in our chat who sent us that, because it is actually really, really dope. And I want to share it with the audience so that they can see it. And actually, let me go to the producer's chat. 1 second, everybody. We're just moving a little slow. I started a little early tonight because we had more people running with us this morning. I woke up at 5:45 Eastern time and drugged myself to the garage. So I've been up the entire time after we ran today. And you could join us. It's called We Movin'. Go to We Movin', WEMOVIN.life. WeMovin.life and register to run with, or to walk, or to dance, or to just move your body. We're doing that every morning at 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that's just because a lot of us are trapped at home during this pandemic, and none of us are superstar none of us. We're all just literally just moving our bodies. And that's why I'm a little tired, and that's why I started a little early. That said, let's get going. I'm going to play the first clip, and I'll circle back to the fan art in a second. a lot to talk about in terms of Amy Coney Barrett. I think it's important in so much as we can see her character. I don't think it's important in the sense that we're going to be able to stop Republicans from doing what these Republicans are going to do. But we can 100% see the character of Amy Coney Barrett. And let's start with her exchange with Amy Klobuchar today. I thought that was very interesting. I want you to take a look.
From outside of my state of Minnesota started recruiting poll watchers with special forces experience to protect polling locations in my state. This was clear voter intimidation. Similar efforts are going on around the country, solicited by President Trump's false claims of massive voter fraud, something that, by the way, many Republican leaders, including Michael Steele, the former head of the Republican Party, including Tom Ridge, including Governor Kasich, including sitting Senator Romney, have made very clear is not true. So as a result of his claims, people are trying to get poll watchers, special forces people, to go to the polls. Judge Barrett, under federal law, is it illegal to intimidate voters at the polls?
Senator Klobuchar, I can't characterize the facts in a hypothetical situation, and I can't apply the law to a hypothetical set of facts. I can only decide cases as they come to me, litigated by parties on a full record after fully engaging precedent, talking to colleagues, writing an opinion. And so I can't answer questions like that.
Okay, well, I'll make it easier. 18 U.S.C. 594 outlaws anyone who intimidates, threatens, coerces, or attempts to intimidate, threaten, or coerce any other person for the purpose of interfering with the right of such other person to vote. This is a law that has been on the books for decades. Do you think a...
All right, let's jump in there. She did that a lot today. And it's showing you that she is not independent of Donald Trump. Amy Coney Barrett is not willing to make herself independent of Donald Trump for whatever reason, including fear that he will retract her nomination, right? Donald Trump, she knows that if she actually says something that the president doesn't like, that he would retract her nomination. Number two, she actually believes in this imperial presidency, right? And she has committed some, this is a possibility, that she has committed some loyalty to this president and not to the Constitution. That's number two. But number three, I believe she believes these things, separate and apart from Donald Trump. I believe that she believes these things, and she is on the side of this fascistic trend that America is going to as a result of conservatives. So this fits. This is her. But above all else, it shows you that she is not going to that bench to be a check and balance, a separate and independent branch that has the ability to provide a check. Where are the checks and balances going to come from if the people who have been saturating and packed into the federal judiciary are going to do the bidding of the executive branch? And to that extent, showing that they have a commitment that transcends justice and the letter of the law, but actually a commitment to a particular ideology. That's what she said there. Because the question is very clear. Amy Klobuchar made it clear. Is voter intimidation illegal? And she starts talking about hypotheticals. Hypotheticals, my ass. That has nothing to do with hypotheticals. It's very real. And we're not talking about a case that comes before you. We're talking about whether or not you see voter intimidation as illegal, because you should, because that is the law. All right, let's take a look at this next clip. It's the next exchange between Barrett and Klobuchar. This one is, hang on, and this one is regarding Roe versus Wade.
Allen from Harvard said, Roe is not a super precedent because calls for its overruling have never ceased, but that doesn't mean that Roe should be overruled. It just means that it doesn't fall on the small handful of cases like Marbury versus Madison and Brown versus the board that no one questions anymore.
Is United States v. Virginia military, is that super precedent?
Senator Klobuchar, if you continue to ask questions about super precedents that aren't on the list of the super precedents that I discussed in the article that are well acknowledged in the constitutional law literature, every time you ask the question, I will have to say that I can't grade it.
Okay. Well, I am then left with looking at the tracks of your record and where it leads the American people. And I think it leads us to a place that's going to have severe repercussions for them. Thank you.
Without question. Without question. My own, actually, no, there is a question. There is a question. While there isn't much that Democrats can do to stop this, I would hope that they would protest this more. And I think Democrats give too much credence, or they genuflect before precedent far too much. Like they are not precedent. Excuse me, I got distracted. Imagine that. That really happens. Institutions. They respect the institutions a bit too much in that they are participating in this rodeo that does not deserve participation. Right? They should not be giving validity to this circus, right? To this miscarriage of just having Amy Coney Barrett there to be confirmed just in time for her to serve as a deciding vote on the Supreme Court that could have ramifications for the election is a miscarriage of justice in the first place. And I think Democrats are like, okay, well, we have to do our part in this process. To me, yeah, your part should be, none of us, no Democrat should acknowledge this miscarriage. No Democrat should be here. Every Democrat should protest it, in my opinion. Now, maybe they have a different strategy and they just haven't told us their strategy, but this is the third Supreme Court pick for Donald Trump and 183 federal judges across the judiciary. I don't know if there's a long-term play here. I think they are just kind of going along with the institutions. All right, that said, let's keep going with more clips. This next clip, hang on, let me get this out of the way and pull this up, is more from Amy Coney Barrett. And this time it is dealing with Dianne Feinstein. Let's take a listen to this clip.
Delay the upcoming election. Does the Constitution give the President of the United States the authority to unilaterally delay a general election under any circumstances? Does federal law?
Well, Senator, if that question ever came before me, I would need to hear arguments from the litigants and read briefs and consult with my law clerks and talk to my colleagues and go through the opinion writing process. So, if I give off-the-cuff answers, then I would be basically a legal pundit. And I don't think we want judges to be legal pundits. I think we want judges to approach cases thoughtfully and with an open mind.
Okay, let me try something else. In 2017.
All right, that's it for that clip. I am interested in can I play that clip one more time? Because I want you to be sure I want you to make sure that you hear the question that she just danced her way around.
Delay the upcoming election. Does the Constitution give the President of the United States the authority to unilaterally delay a general election under any circumstances? Does federal law?
Well, Senator, if that question ever came before me, I would need to hear arguments from the litigants and read briefs and consult with my law clerks and talk to my...
But it's not about the case. It's about what the Constitution says. Is there anything in the Constitution that gives Donald Trump the ability to delay the election? And she won't answer that. That's another example of how Amy Coney Barrett is not going to be a member of she's not going to be someone who is separate from the executive branch, from Donald Trump, serving as a check and balance as she should. She is genuflecting to Donald Trump. She will not answer any question that's going to make him upset. So what do you think she's going to do when it's time to actually make some decisions? She's putting Donald Trump first, not the Constitution. I think there's nothing clearer. If you don't believe anything else, and I understand that she is putting Donald Trump above the Constitution, which is exactly the type of nominee that Donald Trump looks for on a regular basis. We got a lot of clips to go through tonight. So just hang on and let's go through the rest of them, because it is atrocious what is happening in this country and what is being labeled as, what they label as justice is as much of an injustice as anything I've ever seen. They tell us the sky is blue. They tell us the sky is green and tell us the grass is blue and expect us to take it. Let's go with... Let's talk about this one. Here we go.
This guy, our president, he is the one that decided to plop a Supreme Court nomination in the middle of an election when people's health care is on the line with a case before the court on November 10th. So let's see what he said about the Supreme Court. Well, one of President Trump's campaign promises in 2015 was that his judicial appointments will do the right thing on Obamacare. You can see it right here. And in fact, Judge, just one day after you were nominated, this is like a few weeks ago, he said also on Twitter that it would be a big win if the Supreme Court strikes down the health law. So, Judge, my first question, do you think we should take the president at his word when he says his nominee will do the right thing and overturn the Affordable Care Act?
Senator Klobuchar, I can't really speak to what the president has said on Twitter. He hasn't said any of that to me. And what I can tell you, as I have told your colleagues earlier today, is that no one has elicited from me any commitment in a case or even brought up a commitment in the case. I am 100% committed to judicial independence from political pressure. So whatever people's, party platforms may be or campaign promises may be, the reason why judges have life tenure is to insulate them from those pressures. So I take my oath seriously to follow the law. And, I have not pre-committed, nor would I pre-commit to decide a case any particular way.
Oh, that's
and
a
I
lie.
think this life tenure, this idea that you have, just for everyone out there, a job for life.
That's a lie. The only way she was fast-tracked at this early age in her life, in her early stage in her career, is because she comes from a political ideology that is committed to not only overturning Obamacare, but also to overturning Roe versus Wade. I just want to point out this obvious truth. This is just a show. She has one job. All she has to do, when they coach her, this is what they tell her. All you have to do is survive. Just survive. Don't answer anything, ignore every question, prevaricate, dance around it, whatever you do. All you have to do is survive to the end. And if you survive to the end, hell, look at Brett Kavanaugh. I like beer. He made it through, so of course she's going to make it through. The real thing is, and I'm playing these because you need to see them if you haven't already. I do want us to discuss them, but the truth of the matter is she's already going to be approved. She's already going to be approved. And so what we have to do, somebody just said in the comment section, I put it on screen. They said, hang on, this is the one I want. They said, obviously, so what do we do now? This is from No Middle Ground. What we do now is that we 100% have to return fire with fire. Democrats 100% have to be willing to return fire with fire. And by that, I mean what they have to be willing to do is to pack the courts. No questions asked. First of all, there's historical precedent for it. It is not something that is super constitutional. Like, it's not above the Constitution. It is actually within the parameters for the Congress to determine how big the Supreme Court actually is, right? So they could pass legislation expanding the Supreme Court, period, done. Right? It uses the institutions so it's not a violation of the Constitution. It is usage of the Constitution. And you better believe conservatives would absolutely do it if they needed to do it. Absolutely. In 2017, if the tilt of the bench was liberal, if the tilt of the Supreme Court was liberal in 2017 and Republicans had the House, the Senate, and the White House, they 100% would have packed the courts. Democrats have to be willing to do, because if they aren't willing to do it, That means we are going to be fighting against a conservative Supreme Court and a conservative federal judiciary for the rest of our lives. That means every piece of legislation that comes up, they will reject it. Every piece of progressive legislation that comes up, they will without question reject it. There is no progressive future with a conservative judiciary because they will reject it. And who are you going to appeal to? The Supreme Court? They are going to reject it. And they're going to reject it underneath the guise of originalism. That type of argument that says we support everything that was in the original Constitution. They don't view the Constitution as a living, breathing document. They think the Constitution should be taken at a snapshot, which means that if it wasn't enshrined in the Constitution originally, then it is not something that should be added to the Constitution. And to that end, you think of things like Brown versus the Board of Education. You think of things like Oberfels versus Hodges. Obviously, they're coming after that. They're obviously coming after Roe versus Wade. They're coming after every decision that was made by the court or any law that falls outside an originalist interpretation. Let me cut to the core of what originalist really is. Originalist is really about enshrining the power of white Christian men, because that's who the Constitution was originally written for. Let's be sure. It's okay. When they say all men are created equal, in their mind, they were talking about all the men who were in that room, and not just white Christian men, but wealthy white Christian men, land-owning white Christian men. So let's be sure. People who talk about an originalist interpretation of the Constitution, they are talking about enshrining in perpetuity the power of wealthy white Christian men. Plenty more clips to go. Let's get a couple of your comments before I move on. Actually, we'll come back to the comments. I want to get some more clips because it was painful to endure. It was painful. Here she is on George Floyd. Let's listen in.
Have you seen the George Floyd video?
I have.
What impact did it have on you?
Senator, as you might imagine, given that I have 2 black children, that was very, very personal for my family. Jesse was with the boys on a camping trip out in South Dakota, so I was there, and my 17-year-old daughter, Vivian, who's adopted from Haiti, all of this was erupting. It was very difficult for her. We wept together in my room, and then it was also difficult for my daughter Juliet, who's 10. I had to try to explain some of this to them. I mean, my children to this point in their lives have had the benefit of growing up in a cocoon where they have not yet experienced hatred or violence. And for Vivian, you know, to understand that there would be a risk to her brother or the son she might have one day of that kind of brutality has been an ongoing conversation. It's a difficult one for us, like it is for Americans all over the country.
And so I'd like to ask you, as an originalist who obviously has a passion for history, I can't imagine that you could separate the two, to reflect on the history of this country. Where are we today when it comes to the issue of race? Some argue it's fine. Everything's fine, and you don't have to even teach children about the history of slavery or discrimination. Others say there's implicit bias in so many aspects of American life that we have to be very candid about and address. Others go further and say, no, it's systemic racism that's built into America, and we have to be much more pointed in our addressing it. How do you feel?
So I think it is an entirely uncontroversial and obvious statement, given, as we just talked about, the George Floyd video, that racism persists in our country. As to putting my finger on the nature of the problem, you know, whether, as you say, it's just outright or systemic racism, or how to tackle the issue of making it better, those things, you know, are policy questions. They're hotly contested policy questions that have been in the news and discussed all summer. So while, as I did share my personal experience, I'm very, happy to discuss the reaction our family had to the George Floyd video. Giving broader statements or making, broader diagnoses about the problem of racism is kind of beyond what I'm capable of doing as a judge.
Well, I would doubt that. I just don't believe you can be as passionate about originalism and the history behind language that we've had for decades, if not centuries, without having some thought about where we stand today. But I'm not going to press you on that.
Exactly. Like, she was more than happy. Can I tell you about conservatism and racism? They are more than happy to weaponize race and use language as if they actually give a damn about black people when it suits their needs. She's more than happy to use her kids as a prop to say, we wept, we cried, but what are you going to do about it as one of the most powerful women in the world? Well, I can't really talk about that. What? What do you mean you can't talk about that? Because there are cases that come before you that you have actually talked about. There's a case, and I want to bring it up on the screen. Let me grab it. It's in my Twitter account, where she gave a decision about racism on the job. I want to make sure I get this. I'm going to bring it up on the screen right now, and I have it via Twitter, so I'm going to read it to you. This is from Jill Filovic on Twitter. She said, here's a racial discrimination case that Barrett did decide, where she wrote that being called the N-word at work by your supervisor does not constitute a hostile or abusive work environment. And here's the key paragraph. Barrett wrote for a unanimous 3-judge panel in 2019, just last year, that upheld the dismissal of a workplace discrimination lawsuit by Terry Smith, a Black Illinois transportation employee who sued after he was fired. Smith's claim included that he was called a racial slur by supervisor Lloyd Colbert. The N-word is an egregious racial epithet, Barrett wrote in Smith versus Illinois Department versus Transportation. Pause. So she's happy to say, oh, this is a bad thing, folks. Racism is bad. Now, please tell us, Judge Barrett, what you're going to do about it. And this is what she said. That said, let's start here. The N-word is an egregious racial epithet, Barrett wrote in Smith versus Illinois Department of Transportation. That said, Smith can't win simply by providing that the word was uttered. He must also demonstrate that Colbert's use of this word altered the conditions of his employment and created a hostile or abusive working environment. Let me tell you something, champ. Call me the N-word and you're going to see how hostile the environment really gets. Barrett went on to say that Smith introduced no evidence that Colbert's use of the N-word changed his subjective experience of the workplace. To be sure, Smith testified that his time at the department caused him psychological distress, but that was for reasons that predated his run-in with Colbert and had nothing to do with his race. His tenure at the department was rocky from the outset because of his poor track record. She's more than happy to use the language, just like conservatives. They are more than happy to point out the racism from Democrats. They'll never point out their own racism. Similarly, she is more than happy to use her children that she adopted from Haiti as props to make it seem as though she's empathetic to the plight of black people. But when the rubber meets the road, she doesn't care if somebody calls you the N-word. You still didn't prove that this was a hostile work environment. Agreed, Melissa on Facebook says she's horrible. All right, but she has black kids, right? as if there's never been white people in the history of this country who have black kids who aren't racist. Come on, man. And even if, here's the deal. People like to dance around what racism means. So let's take racism off the table, right? Which I could successfully argue that she is. But take that off the table. I don't care about that. She is demonstrating in that decision as well as in the Illinois Department of Transportation decision, as well as this question that she danced around, that she is not willing to do anything about racism. So if you want to dance around whether or not, oh, that doesn't mean she's a racist, I don't really care. What she's saying is she's not going to use her authority to do anything about racism, because when the rubber meets the road, she doesn't actually see racism unless it's something that can benefit her, like sitting in front of the entire nation and making it seem like she's so empathetic with black people because she has black children that she adopted. All right, let's keep going. There's a whole lot of clips to go here. Let's take this next clip, and it is of not recusing herself on this upcoming election.
So, Your Honor, I'm concerned that what President Trump wants here couldn't be clearer. That he's trying to rush this nomination ahead so you might cast a decision, a vote in his favor in the event of a disputed election. And he's doing his level best to cast doubt on the legitimacy of an election in which literally millions of votes have already been cast, most of them by mail. I was very encouraged, again, to hear from you specifically. You have not had any conversation with him about this topic, and that's not what I'm suggesting. In fact, you repeated promptly 28 U.S.C. 455. You're quite familiar with the recusal statute and its considerations. But I think the gravamen, the core issue in recusal is that any judge or justice should recuse themselves from a case in which their impartiality might reasonably be questioned. Given what President Trump said, given the rushed context of this confirmation, will you commit to recusing yourself from any case arising from a dispute in the presidential election results 3 weeks from now?
Of course not.
Senator Coons, thank you for giving me the opportunity to clarify this, because I want to be very clear for the record and to all members of this committee that no matter what anyone else may think or expect, I have not committed to anyone or so much as signaled. I've never even written. I've been in a couple of opinions in the Seventh Circuit that have been around the edges of election law, but I haven't even written anything that I would think anybody could reasonably say, oh, this is how she might resolve an election dispute. And I would consider it, let's see, I certainly hope that all members of the committee have more confidence in my integrity than to think that I would allow myself to be used as a pawn to decide this election for the American people. So that would be on the question of actual bias. And you asked about the appearance of bias.
Correct.
And you're right that the statute does require a justice or judge to recuse when there's an appearance of bias. And what I will commit to every member of this committee, to the rest of the Senate, and to the American people is that I will consider all factors that are relevant to that question. That requires.
That was a horrible place for that one to end, but you know, it is that's how we grabbed it. So all she has to do is survive. All she has to do is survive 3 days of questioning, and she has an appointment for life. An appointment for life that she could do the bidding of not only Donald Trump. See, it's not just for her to do the bidding of Donald Trump, because Donald Trump is going to come and go. She's going to do the bidding of her rigid political and religious ideologies for the foreseeable future. And all she has to do is survive like 3 days of questioning. Will she in turn reward Donald Trump? Absolutely. Do you think she's going to recuse herself? You shouldn't. Do I think she's going to recuse herself? Absolutely not. I think she would go all the way to be the deciding vote to make sure that he gets this next election. But I think Donald Trump has done such a successful job at stacking the rest of the federal judiciary, as well as Republicans on the state level. They have successfully stacked the state Supreme Courts, that it may not even get to the Supreme Court. But if it does get to the Supreme Court, Amy Coney Barrett is going to most certainly reward Donald Trump for rewarding the entire conservative, religious, fundamentalist community in this country with the deciding vote to undo the entirety of the progress of the 20th century, to undo Roe versus Wade, to undo Obergefell versus Hodges, to undo labor laws, to undo the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act, to undo anything that falls outside of their originalist interpretation. And to be sure, their originalist interpretation is 100% about preserving the political and economic power in this country for white Christian men. Take a look at this tweet that says as much. And this is Jessica Cisneros. And she said, under originalism, Amy Coney Barrett wouldn't have had the opportunity to become an attorney or a judge, much less be a SCOTUS nominee. She's not what the forefathers intended, so she could see herself out. The reason I wanted to read this tweet in context of that is because exactly what Jessica said. People who adhere to originalism, they do so to the benefit of a certain type of American. And that certain type of American ain't a woman. It ain't a black person. It's not a gay couple. It's not a Muslim. They're the white Christian men. White Christian men and the women who love them and the collaborators of color who make enough money to not care about their rights being infringed on because they got money. All right. One more clip and then we'll take a break reading some of your comments and then we'll keep going. I want to play this one on Dick Durbin. Yeah, I think I want this Dick Durbin, this second Dick Durbin clip. Let's go.
On a state's ability to curtail felon voting rights.
Did you not distinguish the Second Amendment right from the right to vote, calling one an individual right under the Constitution and the other a civic right?
That's consistent with the language in the historical context, the way the briefs described it, and it was part of the dispute in Heller of whether the Second Amendment was an individual right or a civic one that was possessed collectively for the sake of the common good. And everybody was treating voting as one of the civic rights.
Well, I will just tell you that the conclusion of this is hard to swallow. The notion that Mr. Cantor, after all that he did, should not be even slowed down when he's on his way to buy a firearm. My goodness, it's just a felony. It's not a violent felony that he committed. And then to turn around on the other hand and say, well, but when it comes to taking away a person's right to vote, that's the civic duty. It's something that we could countenance. That really goes back to the original George Floyd question. That was thinking in the 19th century that resulted in voter suppression and taking away the right to vote from millions of African Americans across this country. And it still continues to this day. I just don't see it. I think the right to vote should be given at least as much respect as any Second Amendment right. Do you?
Senator, the Supreme Court has repeatedly said that voting is a fundamental right, and I fear that you might be taking my statement in Cantor out of context. What I said in that opinion was distinguishing between, it was a descriptive statement of the state of the court's case law, comparing it to stripping felons of Second Amendment rights.
So essentially, if you didn't get the gist of it, Senator Durbin is saying, listen, you defend a former felon, you defend their right to own a gun, but you don't defend their right to vote when they come out of prison. What's up with that? And this has been one of the number one hypocrisies of conservatism. They love you if you're going to go buy a gun because they're just as much in bed with the gun manufacturers as they are the defense contractors. Their friends are pouring plenty of money into their campaigns. Their friends in the gun industry are pouring plenty of money into their campaigns. So they are all in with gun rights. You're a former felon? Hell, get a gun. You're a former felon and you want to vote? No, let's slow down and let's think about that. Because they don't want people who have arguably the clearest understanding of what America really is. Prisoners, felons, people who spend time in our justice system probably have the clearest understanding of how barbaric America really is. And because our system overwhelmingly imprisons and disproportionately imprisons black people, disproportionately so. For the same crimes, white folks won't even get arrested, black folks will. For the same crime, black folks will get a much longer sentence than white folks will if the white folks get a sentence at all. And so the people who are coming out of prison are disproportionately black. And if they have the right to vote, chances are they are not going to vote for this racist ass Republican Party. So it's not only a philosophical thing. It's not only the fact that they are in bed with the gun lobbyists. It's also a voting thing. It is also a form, like Dick Durbin said, it is a form of voter suppression. And she's on board with it. And all she has to do is avoid a couple more days of questions, just survive a couple more days, and she'll have a lifetime appointment. Let's get to work with your comments, everybody. Speed of Light said, no choice but to pack the courts. Tanula on YouTube says she speaks like a robot. Yeah, Gia Martyr on Facebook said, anyone who says she answered all of the questions is choosing to keep their eyes wide shut. Yeah, I could add a whole lot more to that, but that's she didn't answer any of the questions. She prevaricated around all the questions that had meaning for us. Of course, she answered the softball questions she got from Republicans. And when they say that, when conservatives say, oh, she answered all the questions, what they're saying is she successfully survived the questions without causing any problems, so she's going to get confirmed regardless. All this is kabuki theater at this point, folks. It is all kabuki theater. She's going to get confirmed. Let's keep reading some of your comment. Y'all are cold-blooded. Some of y'all comments, I can't even put some of y'all comments on the screen. I'm gonna be honest with you. This is such a democratic twist. Why should a fellow get the right to vote? Exactly. They're only pro-life. TX2 Trill on Twitch said they're only pro-life if you're not born yet, right? Let's see. Wow, y'all are going ham in the comment section. I'm having to skip over a couple of these. I have to get this clip. I wonder if I have this clip. Kamala rattled her ass. She stuttered a bit, glared at Kamala. Hair went flat. Makeup melted. That's great. I love it. Let's keep going. This is a good one. So much for being pro-life, putting everyone's health at risk in that room. Thank you for that comment, Noble Nova. And let's go to some of the super chats. I want to see and some of the comments from. Okay, hang on. I'm actually not even successfully logged into Slack. Give me a second to log into Slack so I can get all the super chats that are happening and all the comments from Twitch that I've been missing. SLACK. In the meantime, be sure to click that like button. Be sure to click the share button. Be sure to subscribe, whatever platform you are. And also in the meantime, I'm going to throw on one more video. Actually, I want to shift gears. I want to give you some hope. I want to give you something to be hopeful about. This is my dude, Roland Martin, from Roland Martin Unscripted or Unfiltered. Sorry, man. And he shared this video this morning. He was actually in tears because of what he saw. How many people are out to early vote? I'll let him say it in his own words. Take a look at this while I get some more videos.
I want y'all to see this. This is Friendship West Baptist Church, super voting site in Dallas. Look at this, y'all.
That's a line of people over there. Look at that.
Y'all, massive line. Polls only been open 27 hours, 27 minutes. Look at these cars.
Those are all early voters. Wow. Now, generally speaking, you know, that having that kind of line about to vote is really a statement of a broken democracy. right? It really shouldn't take, there should be, under no circumstances should it take that long to vote, or a line should have to take that long to form, especially in early voting. But the fact that this is happening during early voting shows you that the people are motivated like never before to get out and vote, and to vote Donald Trump out of office. So it is a brilliant thing to see. It is a brilliant moment. I want to read a couple of comments from, where are we, 9:50 p.m. Let's read a couple of comments from the comment sections tonight. Here we go. Thank you to Cut the Strings on Twitch for subscribing. Thank you for that. Also, a special thank you to Seat and Worshiper. Nice. Subscribe with Prime on Twitch. Thank you for that. Bose Einstein 7 said on YouTube, how is Barrett calling the N-word is okay on employee from a racist? How do you notify people about fake mail-in ballot boxes set up by the Republican Party? How is Barrett calling the N-word is okay? Well, I just went through that. I went through the entire thing. She literally is saying that that it isn't an example of creating a hostile work environment. I can't think of anything that would make a hostile work environment quicker than calling somebody the N-word. Let's keep going. Nephi Boricua on Twitch said, Amy Coney Barrett lives in an alternate facts world. That's a fact. Trill TX or TX Trill said they need to just ask a basic question like, do you believe in the blonde white Jesus? George Dorsey said, of course she was a judge in Illinois. Shake my head. Black Corvo said on YouTube, conservatism thrives off of isolating systemic issues as individual cases existing in a vacuum and disconnected from external influence. Dishonest. I want to take my time with that comment because it is, and it's an excellent comment. Conservatism thrives off of isolating systemic issues as individual cases existing in a vacuum and disconnected from external influence. It is dishonest. In other words, she's more than happy to discuss this in terms of the individual one-off case of George Floyd and how it made her family feel. But she's absolutely opposed to talking about how racism is a systemic problem, or any bigotry or any problem is systemic, or even how income inequality is systemic. She doesn't look, they refuse to look at the systemic level because they are the beneficiaries of the system. Of course, conservatives are not going to look at anything at the system levels, any systemic racism, any systemic poverty, because they are the beneficiaries of the system. And so like Black Corvo said on YouTube, I want to read it one more time. Of course, conservatives thrive off of isolating systemic issues as individual cases existing in a vacuum and disconnected from external influence. Tech Dave 99 on YouTube said, lifetime is crazy. Support Connor's 18-year limit. Lifetime appointments to the bench is absolutely crazy. Why doesn't the Senate comprise and divide the Senate seats equally? I'm not really sure what they're asking there. Let me keep going. Montcoshire said she lied. Both she and Kavanaugh were involved in the Florida, quote, hanging Chad's decision. Why aren't the Dems pressing her on that and omission on the humanitarian questionnaire? Can't lie on a resume, right? That's from Montcoshire. Maybe they'll get around to it tomorrow in terms of Democrats. Next comment from Nephi Boricua on Twitch said, the dominionist goal is the imposition of Christian version of Sharia law in which adulterers, homosexuals, and perhaps recalcitrant children would be subject to capital punishment. Can I say that again? Amy Coney Barrett is a Catholic dominionist. Right? She's a part of the People of Praise or whatever the name of the group. But the core theology underneath all of Christian fundamentalism is dominionism. The name describes it. They want to have dominion and authority, not spiritual dominion and authority. Right? In the black church, when they preach about having dominion and authority, they talk about having dominion and authority over your own personal devils. You have dominion over, your own personal problems. Like they internalize it and say, you have dominion and authority over that sickness. I'm gonna do my T.D. Jakes impersonation in there. You have dominion and authority. That's James Clyburn, actually. Over the problems of your finances, right? That's the kind of stuff the black preachers preach about. When these white conservative evangelicals talk about dominion and authority, they intend on having dominion and authority over the United States of America, using the force of law to execute and to bring down the kingdom of God. Okay? And so when Nethi Barrico says this, the dominionist goal is the imposition of a Christian version of Sharia law in which adultery, homosexuality, and recalcitrant children would be subject to capital punishment. They're not satisfied with the freedoms that they have to worship the way they want in the privacy of their religious community. They're not satisfied having major Christian television networks where they could broadcast to millions of people every single hour of every single day. And I mean, when I say, they have infrastructure. The Christian TBN, Trinity Broadcasting System network, they have an infrastructure that rivals CBS. Right? They have affiliate stations in every single city across this country almost. They're not satisfied with having one of the largest book chains in the country and movies making billions. It's like a multi-billion-dollar industry, the entertainment part of it. They're not satisfied with any of that because they haven't done their job for white Jesus, white Republican, gun-toting, healthcare denying Jesus until they have dominion over the adulterers, over the homosexuals, over the bad kids. I need you to understand that. It's never about them having the liberty to worship the way they want. They have always had the liberty to worship the way they want since this country was founded. It is about them having the ability to tell you how you have to live your life and how you have to worship. Melba Scott on YouTube said, I wonder about her adopted children and their knowledge of what black skin means in America. Please keep on it, Benjamin. Your spirit is so strong. I thank you, Melba. My spirit is sleepy tonight, but thank you, it's still strong. Zotar the Magnificent, thank you for that super chat. Blue 3 Diamond and Chill, thank you for that super sticker. And AR Walker says, shout out to Ben Dixon from this FAMU alumnus. I'm not even going to get upset over Amy Coney Barrett. She will end up being confirmed. We all know the Democrats are weak and won't fight it hard enough. She's absolutely going to be confirmed. Shout out to a Rattler. My wife is a Rattler. She went to Florida A&M University, and my condolences to both of you for your football team losing every single year for the last 9 years to my beloved Bethune-Cookman University Wildcats. But shout out to you, respect, and thank you for that super chat, most definitely. All right, let's keep going. So unfortunately, my system has crashed, and I'm not seeing your comments directly, except for those that my producers are sending to me. So I'm going to try to jump in the different chat rooms here and there and talk with you guys that way. But also keep in mind, yeah, we're going to keep going. We have so many more clips. So thank you to everyone who's still here with us. I want to play this video from Robert Wright. I want to shift gears a little bit. This is a powerful video from Robert Wright, and I wanted you to see it. My producers wanted you to see it. Let's take a look. Hang on. You can't hear him. Hang on.
Trump and McConnell have tilted the playing field forever. They point to McConnell's rush to confirm Trump's Supreme Court nominee, Amy Coney Barrett, after blocking President Obama's nominee for 293 days because it was too close to the next election, and to the fact that Republicans in the Senate represent 11 million fewer Americans than their Democratic counterparts, and are still able to confirm a Supreme Court justice and entrench minority rule. But, you see, that's not the end of the story. The Constitution doesn't prevent increasing the size of the Supreme Court in order to balance it, or creating a pool of circuit court justices to cycle in and out. In fact, the Constitution says nothing at all about the size of the court. I also hear progressives express outrage that this imbalance of power exists in the Electoral College. which made Trump president in 2016 despite having lost the popular vote by 3 million, and made George W. Bush president in 2000 despite losing the popular vote by about 500,000. But this doesn't have to be the end of the story either. From granting statehood to Washington, D.C., to abolishing the Electoral College, nothing should be off the table to strengthen our democracy. There's no reason to accept the structure of our democracy when it repeatedly empowers a ruthless minority to impose its will over the majority.
Boom. Right there. That's the money shot. I want you to hear that part again. Allow me to rewind it.
End of the story either. From granting statehood to Washington, D.C., to abolishing the Electoral College, nothing should be off the table to strengthen our democracy. There's no reason to accept the structure of our democracy when it repeatedly empowers a ruthless minority.
Again, I know I'm being dramatic, but I want you to hear that. There is no reason
Empowers a ruthless minority to impose its will over the majority.
Period. We are not constrained to this system as it is designed because the Constitution gives us the room and the ability to expand the courts, to adopt new states, to dispose of the Electoral College. Right now, conservatives have used every part of this. Conservatives have used every part of this American system to dominate the will of the majority through the machinations of the minority. They want you to think that America is a conservative nation. America is overwhelmingly progressive. But they have to give you the impression that America is overwhelmingly conservative. But when in reality, what they have done is they've taken, like Robert Reich just said, a ruthless minority has used every part of our institutions and even broken some of our institutions, manipulated the institutions, bent the Constitution and ignored the Constitution in order to get their agenda across. Let's be clear about that. They have manipulated the system. They have pushed it to the limits. And when they push it to the limits and they still couldn't get their way, they broke the rules. They ignored the Constitution. They violated the Constitution. And so we are not strangled. It can't be viewed as, oh, well, they won, game over. It can't be viewed as, go to bed, Lizzie. Unless you're going to, you ain't got to go to bed. My little girl's trying to sneak in here. It can't be ruled as, no, well, I guess you guys win and we just have to give up our democracy. If we're not willing to fight as ruthlessly for good, as conservatives have been willing to fight for what's wrong, if we're not willing to do that, then perhaps we don't deserve this democracy. We 100% have to be willing to fight as ruthlessly against the evils of conservatism as they have been fighting against good. And if we can't do that, then we're not up to the task. So if Democrats are not, and I have a feeling they are, I have a feeling that they're willing to pack the courts and expand the size of the Supreme Court. Because conservatives have used the last 40 years of manipulations and machinations in order to pack the court right now in this moment. They have bent every rule. They have ignored every norm, every institution. There's no level of hypocrisy that they're not willing to go to simply to get their way in the short term. And getting their way in the short term, they want us to accept defeat in the long run. They want to be able to play hardball while we still play nice. What my uncle used to call playing tiddlywinks, like we're out here playing hopscotch. They want us to continue genuflecting before their anger, right? They want us to continue to capitulate before their anger, and for us to be meek and mild, civilized and civil and docile Democrats and progressives and leftists, while they are rabid, foaming at the mouth, long-fanged, ruthless barbarians. Ruthless barbarians who are not going to be satisfied with having power for the sake of, hey, I've got power. I think some Democrats are satisfied with having power for the sake of power. Republicans and conservatives are not satisfied with having power unless they use that power to dominate you and to have dominion over you. The most important thing for you to understand, the most important thing, and I've said it over and over again, and I'm going to say it again. Conservatives define their liberty not by how much freedom they have, but by how much freedom they can control you from having. They don't define their liberty by their own personal liberty. They define their liberty by how they can control your liberty. They don't determine their freedom by the fact that they have the right to marry whoever they want as long as they're a consenting adult. They want to control who you can marry. And if they can't control who you can marry, then they are not satisfied and they feel like it is an affront. They literally feel like the fact that they cannot control who you marry is an affront to their religious liberties. I gotta say it again because I want to say it perfectly. They believe that not being able to stop you from marrying someone of whoever you want to marry is an affront to their religious liberty. So from that, you can infer that their definition of liberty is their ability to control your liberties. That is a level of domination. That is a level of, that's dominionism. That's what they want to bring to this country. It's not enough for them to be able to praise Jesus on their own. They have to either force you to praise Jesus or make it illegal for you not to. And I'm telling you that as a person who believes in Jesus and goes to church not during the pandemic, but we go online. We go online every single Sunday. We're online at somebody's church, at our church. And I'm telling you, the biggest threat to everybody's freedoms, even mine. You think these people gonna leave me? Go to bed, Lizzie. You think these people gonna accept the fact that I'm a Christian and be like, okay, well, we'll leave him alone because he's a Christian? Absolutely not. I'm not their kind of Christian. I'm not the perfect kind of Christian in their eyes. I'm not the one that capitulates to white male power in this country. You think they're going to let me slide just because they're coming after all of us? Every single one of us. Let's watch another video. A lot of media tonight. I want to thank my producers for gathering all this because it's been an extremely long day. And I'm just super glad that that we're able to confront this pretty head on. Before I do that, tell me what you guys think about this. Boom, you up? This was done by one of our supporters. Hang on a second. Let me just make sure I get the right. Hang on one second. I'm sorry, I can't find the name of the supporter. Oh, I had it right here. I told it, let me take it down till I can find it. Oh, I'm so sorry. I had it. My producer sent it to me and I can't find it. Corey Topkis. Whew, found it. Corey, thank you for that. I'm going to put it back on the screen. Thank you for this. This is dope. And apparently he said he's made a couple of them and I get to choose. Thank you, man. That's exactly what I had in mind when I said you up. That's that text message at 12 o'clock in the morning. You up? All right, let's keep going. Again, my system is down in terms of messages. My system is down in terms of all of your comments. So I'm only able to bring in and read what I see in the chats as I go back and forth. And again, thank you, Jason Deck for the super chat, for the super sticker. Thank you for that. Let's keep going with one more clip before we shift gears and get ready to call it a night. Also on Twitch, I want you guys to go ahead and start every night about this time. I want you to take a second to figure out who we are going to raid on Twitch. If you're watching us via Twitch, you can watch on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube and Twitch. If you're watching via Twitch, what we do at the end of the night is we take our entire audience and we raid another progressive slash liberal, but most likely progressive Twitch channel and support them. So we've taken like 60 or 70 or 80, I think one night maybe even 100 people from our stream over to someone else's stream to support them. So let us know who we are rating tonight. And I want to play this next clip of one more clip of Amy Coney Barrett. This time it is of Kamala Harris.
Now, Justice Ginsburg did not tell the committee how she would vote in any particular case, but she did freely discuss how she viewed a woman's right to choose. But Judge Barrett, your record clearly shows you hold a different view. In 2006, you signed your name to an advertisement published in the South Bend Tribune. It described Roe v. Wade as, quote, an exercise of raw judicial power, and called for putting, quote, an end to the barbaric legacy of Roe v. Wade. You signed a similar ad in 2013 that described Roe as, quote, infamous, and expressed opposition to abortion. Also in 2013, you wrote an article about Supreme Court precedent in which you excluded Roe from a list of well-settled cases that you said, quote, no justice would overrule even if she disagrees, suggesting, of course, that you believe Roe is susceptible to being overturned. On the 40th anniversary of Roe, you delivered a speech in which you said that the court's recognition of the right to choose was, quote, created through judicial fiat, rather than grounded in the Constitution. And during your tenure on the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals, you have been willing to reconsider abortion restrictions that other Republican-appointed judges found unconstitutional. As the Senate considers filling the seat of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who was straightforward enough in her confirmation hearing to say that the right to choose is, quote, essential to woman's equality, unquote, I would suggest that we not pretend that we don't know how this nominee views a woman's right to choose and make her own health care decisions. Mr.
Exactly. Let's stop pretending. We have no requirement to pretend as though these people are engaging in good faith with us. None. None whatsoever. In fact, we have a moral obligation to call a thing, call a spade, and call Amy Coney Barrett exactly what she is. She is a religious fundamentalist who is going to use the power of the highest seat in the land. See, she is going to be the tip of the spear. Of course, Brett Kavanaugh is going to rule against Roe versus Wade. Of course, Gorsuch is going to rule against Roe, or to overturn Roe versus Wade. You might even get, I don't know, maybe you get Roberts, possibly. But the truth is they needed a conservative woman. So when the decision is written, it couldn't have been written by Kavanaugh. You know, I like beer, Kavanaugh. It has to be written by a woman. And this is exactly how Republicans are better at identity politics than even Democrats. Democrats like to play identity politics from time to time, but they don't do it as well as Republicans, because Republicans are going to play the long game, and they're going to find somebody of a specific identity who will do the most harm to that identity. They will find a black person to be the deciding factor and to write. Who do you think is going to write the decision? Who's going to be the lead author on the decision, the lead justice rather, on the decision that's going to roll back voting rights, that's going to roll back civil rights, that's going to challenge Brown versus the Board of Education? Clarence Thomas. He's been waiting on this his whole damn life. He's been sitting quiet all these years, but when it comes down, the rubber meets the road, who's going to do the most damage to black people? It's going to be the black conservative that they put on the bench. So likewise, who do you think is going to do the most damage to women in this country? It's going to be the woman that they have ready to put on the bench, the conservative woman that they have ready to put on the bench. One more clip from Kamala.
Barrett asked you earlier today, but did not receive an answer. Prior to your nomination, were you aware of President Trump's statements committing to nominate judges who will strike down the Affordable Care Act? And I'd appreciate a yes or no answer, please.
Well, Senator Harris, I want to be very, very careful. I'm under oath. As I'm sitting here, I don't recall seeing those statements, but let's see, I don't recall seeing or hearing those statements, but I don't really know what context they were in, so I guess I can't really definitively give you a yes or no answer. What I would like to say is I don't recall hearing about or seeing such statements.
So she saw them.
Well, I imagine you were surrounded by a team of folks that helped prepare you for this nomination hearing.
I have yes.
But let me finish if you don't mind.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Did they inform you of the president's statements and that this might be a question that was presented to you during the course of this hearing?
When I had my calls with senators, it came up. Many of the Democratic senators wanted to know about the Affordable Care Act and to satisfy themselves that I had not made any pre-commitments to the president about it.
And so you then became aware of the president's statement, is that correct?
Yeah.
Let's see, Senator Harris.
That's exactly what you just said.
In the context of these conversations, I honestly can't remember whether senators framed the questions in the context of President Trump's comments. Perhaps so. I think from my perspective, the most important thing is to say that I have never made a commitment. I've never been asked to make a commitment, and I hope that the committee would trust in my integrity not to even entertain such an idea, and that I wouldn't violate my oath if I were confirmed and heard that case.
Raise your hand in the audience if you think she's lying. I was gonna say if you believe her, but ain't nobody gonna raise their hand. Put your hands up if you think she's lying. While you putting your hands up, click that share button, click that like button. We're gonna go for a few more minutes, and then I'm gonna carry my behind to bed so that I can get up at 5 in the morning or 5:45 in the morning and participate in We Moving. I'm sorry, I just moved past her. I'm sorry. I'm done. I'm done even talking about her until I get the next clip. But I don't even want to reply to that because I'm reading the comment section. You guys already see right through her disingenuousness. So let's skip past her. Everybody click the share button. Everybody click the like button, especially on YouTube. Give me that like button. Get that algorithm right. But we're going to end in about 18 minutes, because I want to be sure to get up in time for We Moving. Go to wemoving.life. I guess I could put it on the screen, huh? But anyway, it's just We Moving, WEMOVIN.life, and we are all just moving our bodies. Whoever you are, wherever you're from, whatever gender identification, whatever race, it doesn't matter, and whatever your fitness level. Like none of us are in shape like that. Not like talking about, but you got to start somewhere. And so go there, and while you're clicking that like button, and join us in the morning. And you can share your video via Zoom, or you could keep your camera off and just move along with the music that we have playing. That said, while you guys are, let me go and look and see. I asked you to raise your hand if you think she's lying. Let me see how many hands I see. Well, I got a lot of thumbs up saying she's lying. A lot of thumbs up on that. Let's see. Let's go to YouTube. Any hands up? Hands up, hands up, hands up. CT8903 said, move more, eat less. I feel that. Lying, she's lying. She's a liar all over the place. Of course she knew. See, now I got to go back and talk. Of course she knew that Donald Trump said this. It would be irresponsible for her to not be aware of it. How can you not see the implications of something like Donald Trump said and actually think that you are serious enough for this moment in American history? They really play us for fools, man. They really play us for fools. One more clip. One more clip. No, I don't want that. So many to choose from. George Floyd, guns, election, not recusal. Actually, we've gone through these. We've gone through the most. We've gone through the most of these tweets. I think on these videos, I think we have covered. I think we have a thorough enough understanding of what happened in this and how it applies to us. Let me read your comments. Good. I just went through it again. I just wanted to see if I left anything out. Let's read all of your comments that we've gotten to this point. This is from Nefti Barika again on Twitch. To true believers, it is incumbent, true Christian believers, right? It is incumbent upon them to prepare God's kingdom for his arrival to rule. So far, that looks like stacking Washington, D.C. and any number of state capitals with believers in this resurgent dominionist theology, right? This is dominionist theology, though. Be sure to understand it's dominionist theology, because none of the things that they are doing, I can assure you that there's literally not a thing that they are doing that is required for you to be a true believer, right? The funny and the ironic thing about it is the simplicity of believing in God is the very thing that Donald Trump, their God, conservatives knew Jesus, Donald Trump, it's the very thing that he denied. That's the only reason I'm going into the depth of this, right? Now, Nefti Barika is correct in the sense of dominionists, like people who adhere to dominionist theology. They believe that their requirement to be a good Christian and to be a true Christian is to take over the United States in the name of God. A very specific type of God. A white supremacist gun-toting God. Let's be clear. A white supremacist gun-toting God that never questions America's use of force internationally. Type of God. All of that is nothing in terms of the very simple question that was asked of Donald Trump during the primaries of 2016. They asked him, Donald Trump, have you ever asked for forgiveness? You know what Donald Trump said? He said, no, I don't think I have. I think I've taken the little cracker, the little wafer and the wine and but I don't think I've ever had to ask for forgiveness. Which is the core tenet, right? Believing in Christ and seeking forgiveness of your sins is literally and Donald Trump couldn't even do that. And yet Republicans have deemed him, and conservatives and evangelicals have labeled him as God-sent, as their savior. Why? Because he's a useful idiot that will help usher in a theocracy. They know Donald Trump. They know damn well Donald Trump ain't remotely like Jesus would be. But they see a moron who doesn't want to do his homework and has no intellectual thought beyond his immediate ego, the satisfaction of his ego. And they see someone that you could bring a name to. And they were like, well, I don't want to read up on them. So if that's who you want, let's pick them for the Supreme Court. If that's who you want, let's pick them for the judiciary. If that's who you want, let's pick them for this position. He doesn't do any homework. He doesn't do any reading. Conservatives and evangelicals know Donald Trump is not even remotely a Christian. He rejected the fundamental thing, which is seeking forgiveness. He rejected it. With his 2 Corinthians, I mean, come on. They know he's not a Christian, but what they see is a person who will execute a theocracy in this country because of his sheer laziness. Oh, there are a lot more. Sorry, I almost stopped there. Oscar Leonidas Aguilar says, don't tell me who I can marry. We are not harming anyone by marrying who we love. Literally the case. It's your business and nobody else's. Kentucky Fried Comrade said, I didn't realize you're on Twitch now. Hell yeah, dude. Hey, I appreciate that, Kentucky Fried. Ellie Boyd sent a nice puppy as a super sticker. Thank you for that. Oscar Leonidas Aguilar said also, let me finish if you don't mind. Kamala Harris. She's getting pretty good at saying, excuse me, I was talking. Bose Einstein on YouTube said, so the battle is against capitalism and theocracy. Oh, you better believe it. You better believe it. Absolutely. Without a shadow of a doubt. A lot of people leave out. Yes, they go hand in hand. Despite the fact that both a theocracy as well as capitalisms are perversions of what's in the Bible. Because according to the Bible, you can't charge your brother interest. You can't charge people interest, usury. But they ignore that. And our entire capitalistic financial capital system is run and thrives and exists based on interest. Not to mention the fact the Bible says the love of money is the root of all evil, and capitalism is driven literally by greed. But also the idea of dominating society for God and forcing people to compelling people to become a certain type of Christian is completely antithetical. Because if you're not willingly doing it, it don't even count. You could try to outlaw all the sins that you want. You could try to outlaw them. But if people don't willingly live according to these rules, if people don't look at the Bible and say, that's a set of rules that I want to live by, it don't count for God anyway. So both capitalism and theocracy and dominionism are all antithetical to the Bible itself. But you can't talk like that and actually amass power. So let's cut to the core of it. It's not that they have a poor understanding of the Bible. It's that they have taken a specific interpretation of the Bible for the purposes of amassing wealth and power, economic power and political power. That's what that's what this is all about. It's not that they read the Bible and say, oh, this sounds like Jesus when he overturned the tables in the temple. It doesn't really sound like he was advocating against capitalism or against making profit off your brother. It actually sounds like there was a spiritual component to it. So Jesus wasn't really mad at the bankers in the temple. Jesus was mad at the banker in your heart. So if you just ask forgiveness of your sin and not have a banker in your heart, it's okay for you to charge overdraft fees as a real life banker and bankrupt people because of your greed. Because Jesus wasn't talking about the systemic issue. He was talking about the individual problem. So the problem is not greed on a system level. The problem is the greed in your individual heart. And nobody can regulate the greed in your individual heart. So that gives them all the room in the world to execute their greed and their need for power. They know exactly what the hell they're doing. They know that Donald Trump is not a Christian. They know that he doesn't give a damn about Jesus. They know that he's only concerned. The only person that Donald Trump worships is himself. But he is a means to an end. And they know that the Bible doesn't say all these things that they're trying to execute. They are trying to dominate society, right? They know the Bible speaks against capitalism at every single level, from the greed to the interest, but that doesn't matter because they got to get their money. They know these things and they don't care. So to answer your question, the short answer is yes. The fight is against capitalism as well as theocracy, because both of them are perversions that are going to destroy society. A theocracy is going to inevitably lead to the demise of civilization, because people of good conscience will always fight back against the oppression that comes from that type of system. Breck Bannon on Twitch said, a white supremacist, gun-loving, capitalist God. I couldn't have said it better myself. All right, we got a few more minutes here, guys. We're going to start wrapping it up. Thank everybody for hanging out with me for this long. Thank you for supporting the stream and just giving me the ability to kick it with you. I want to end here because, one, I'm tired. I'm dog tired. And it's not, I need to hit this. I'm the type of person, if I don't go to sleep when I'm sleepy, like right then, if I wait, if I feel my fatigue coming down and I don't go to sleep right then, my brain will just activate and I'll be up for another 4 hours. So I need to go do that. And I need you to do that too, so that you can join us for the run. You can either come join us in the Zoom room and exercise and move your body, however you want to move your body, or you can just watch us as we stream on YouTube and Twitch and Twitter. And that's about it. Did we figure out who we are rating tonight? I want to check the chat room and see if we decided who we're rating. For everybody else, that's it. We'll catch you guys. Oh, yes. Perfect. We're rating the left flank vets. They previously rated us, and I wanted to return the kindness. So everybody on Twitch, get ready. We are going over to left flank vets, and my producer David is going to set that up any second. To everyone else, let me just peruse the chat rooms again. My comments aren't coming up on my computer screen, so I have to go to your chat rooms. Thank you to the 400 people who have been hanging out with me the entire time that are left on Facebook. I like Gia Martyr's comment. She said, Amy Coney Barrett's lack of eye contact is very telling. I have to agree. A couple of Brenda Scott, see you later. Good night, Lindsay. Thank you for that. Oh, this is important. Joyce Hollingsworth says, vote. Make sure you do that. However, early vote, mail-in ballot, whatever you're going to do, make sure that you get it done. Good night, Deborah. Let me jump over to YouTube. I want to see, make sure I can say good night to everybody on YouTube. Good night, Tammy on YouTube. I see you, Angry Panda. Have a good night. Angie, I'm just going to, Agni. I'm going to call you Agni if that's okay. You get some rest too. Thank you. John, you go to bed as well. I appreciate you. Good night, everyone. I'm just waiting for my producer to tell me that he has successfully done the raid. Y'all give the left flank votes, vets. Y'all give them my best. And let's see. We good to go, David? Thanks to Jake back there producing. Thanks to Max, who helps me get some of these stories together. We're building a little operation here, and it's going to get bigger and stronger and better every single time. Oh, while we wait, I almost forgot. We need to do this every single night. Make sure that you say hello to someone. I know you're saying good night, so since it's time to say good night, make sure you say good night to someone and show someone a kindness in the chat room. Make sure that there's nobody who leaves the chat room without having some love and having some kindness shown to them. And that will be a wrap. All right, David, I trust that you got it done, because I'm done. I'm going to bed. Good night, folks.